So this is the very first cutting board I ever made, and what you're looking at there is probably the worst clamp and glue job ever done. Once that was dry and secured, then I ran the cutting board through the planer to smooth out any rough patches in the board. And then I took it to my table saw and crosscut sled to trim off the edges, so it's a nice and even on both sides. Once that was done, I basically took my square to make sure that all the angles were even. And then, when all the angles were even, I decided that I wanted to create a 45-degree bevel on each side of the cutting board. And I wanted to do that by using my router, but the problem is I don't have a lot of experience with using routers, and I'm not very good with it. So So I decided to create the 45-degree bevel by using my table saw instead. So here you see me using the rip fence as a guide, and I'm creating that bevel right now. And there is a purpose for creating the bevel on each side of the cutting board. I'll probably get into that a little bit later. And then here's me probably about to do the other side of the bevel. And then once that was done, I flipped the cutting board on the other side of it, where the bevel ended. And then I actually took my 3-inch planing block, hand block, and then I created or softened up the edges of my cutting board on the top side. And basically whenever you use a bevel, you want to make sure that you just do it slowly, and you don't want to try and take off too much in one pass. You want to do it very slowly but surely. I actually like using this tool. Okay, so I'm now going to sand my board. I'm going to sand it to 220. First I'm going to start off with 120 grit. And if you saw that I put a pencil mark down there, it's because that's sort of like my guide on when I'm done sanding. Once all of the pencil marks are gone off the cutting board, then I know that I'm actually ready to flip it, go the other side. And then that's me just using 220 now. And 220 grit sandpaper tends to be like a really nice finish on a cutting board. What I'm learning about getting into this hobby is that sanding really tends to be a very tedious job. I don't really like doing it. Okay, so here it is. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually spray the cutting board with water. And what this does is it actually makes like some of the fibers in the wood stand up, so it gets a little fuzzy. And by doing this process beforehand, before I actually place oil and conditioner on the board, that's going to actually prevent that from happening in the future, I guess. At least that's what I've heard. So there's the board. Once this thing fully dries, I can put it basically in a lubricant bath of mineral oil. And I basically just used a bin you can just buy at Costco, and I'm pouring food grade mineral oil in there. I want to make sure you use food grade safe oil. And there's my cutting board submerged in mineral oil. Looks good so far. Okay, so I let that submerge for about 2 hours. And then what I want to do now is I want to basically just take the board, and I need to let it dry out. But what I do first is I basically affix it like on top of my actual bin here with clamps, so then the oil can just drip down. And I let that happen until it seems like it's pretty close to being dry. Once that's done, then I'm ready to take it down and then wipe off the excess oil and let it dry. It's actually pretty dry right now. So just wiping off the oil. Once your oil is wiped off and it seems to be fairly dry, then you can basically use cutting board paste or wax. And what this does, it just acts as a conditioner for the board. I guess it's kind of like waxing your car. And then here is the back side. I'm going to make sure you rub that in. And here's my board when it's finished. Now if you take a look at it, I like the grain. It's like 4 different types of wood. But if you see the bevel, I actually place the bevel starting from the bottom and then it ends at the top. And the reason why is because I want it to be beveled like that, so then you can pick it up really easy and you can actually just fit your fingertips underneath it. So it's very easy to pick up. I also think it just looks better too with that bevel like that. And so this is my very first cutting board that I've ever made. I guess we'll christen it by having a drink. All right. Have a good day.